Good evening. I'd like to call to order the August 21st meeting of the New Canaan Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, I'll ask for a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Brendan, second. Erica, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. Moving on. Approval of minutes from the July 17th meeting. May I have a motion? Penny, second. Phil, all in favor? And then I think one abstention notice, right? Brendan? Yep. Okay. All right, comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll move on. Reports and recognition. So tonight we have 4 items under this section, and we'll get started with an update on the Literacy Academy with Mr. Tesper.
Thank you. As you know, this was the first year of a 3-year implementation plan to establish the Literacy Academy. During the course of the year, there was 2 teachers who were part of the Literacy Academy. 1.5 of those FTEs were directly working with students. The other 0.5 was around the administrative and the instructional piece of the Literacy Academy. They worked with 14 students across the 3 elementary schools by the end of the year. In addition to that, our fellow in training, Jen Tavello, trained 15 staff members to the associate level of Wharton Gillingham, which was a huge group of teachers. It was comprised of special ed teachers and some other reading specialists across the district participated in the training. In addition to those 60 hours of coursework, now they are currently working through their 100 hours of supervised practicum experience. So they started that during the second half of the school year. Some of them were able to continue over the summer in the extended school year program, and those who need to still do some more work on those hours will do so throughout this upcoming school year. We had 3 teachers who have requested to continue their training and go on to the certified level, which is a whole nother set of coursework and then additional practicum hours. And we have 1 teacher in the district who is already at the certified level, which is great. In terms of data collection, you'll see on the graphs on the following pages, but the teachers in the Literacy Academy collect data on a daily basis, and they also do quarterly progress monitoring checks using some of the instruments listed here on the sheet. And they use that data to guide instruction on a day-to-day basis and also to progress monitor throughout the year. So if you look at some of the data that they gathered, it's quite impressive. I'll let you kind of go through the graphs and take a look, but if you look at the first graph around decoding scores, you can see significant improvement in the students' performance from the beginning of the year in September to June of the 23, the end of the school year. And as you look at the graph, the close syllable single consonant on the left-hand side is an easier skill than over on the right-hand side with words with easy endings. So those skills are more complex as you go across the graph. And you can see the significant improvement in the student performance in all those areas, which is awesome. The next graph is encoding or spelling, and it's the same thing where on the left is an easier skill, and on the far right-hand side is a more complex skill. And you can see that, again, we see some significant progress for the students with their spelling skills. The next graph, again, is from one of the assessments, the phonological awareness screening test around some basic phonological skills. And again, these are graphs that you saw when we came and did the update, but we added the additional columns towards the end of the year to show the progress throughout the year. And again, you'll see significant improvement in all areas. And even, with the advanced phoneme starting the year at 36% accuracy and ending it at 86% accuracy. Some of the students in the Literacy Academy continued their services throughout the summer, and some of them, depending on the student need, didn't and will pick up again in September with a teacher. As we look to this upcoming year, as you recall from the budget, we put in an additional special education teacher who is dedicated to teaching reading in the Literacy Academy, associate level, trained in Orton-Gillingham. So at this point, for this school year, we will have a full-time teacher at East in the Literacy Academy, a full-time teacher in West School in the Literacy Academy, and then at South School, which is Jen Tavello's home base, she will be .5 in the Literacy Academy, working directly with the students, and .5 as the instructional leader for the program, for the teachers in the Literacy Academy, and for special education teachers across the district who are also using Orton-Gillingham in the approach for reading instruction. It's anticipated that we'll start this year with 24 students in the Literacy Academy, and then additional students will join as we go through the year, and hopefully some will leave, because that's the goal, right? Is to get them in there, teach them the skills, and have them, progress in the curriculum. Any questions?
Thank you for the update. Penny?
Can you just remind me, like, is the Literacy Academy a pull-out program?
Yes.
And then, do we graduate anybody this year?
There is one student that we talked about graduating, and we're going to phase them out at the start of this school year. So we already talked to the parents. It's a PPT process, but we're phasing the student out of the program because they've made such great progress.
Fabulous. And so all the teachers that have been, the 15 staff members that are trained to the associate level, are they all going to be using it at the, in their special education classes?
Yes. Yep.
Are there any of the teachings of Orton-Gillingham that are going to sort of work their way in that you think will enhance, general education reading, or what are you seeing on that?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. Part of the training has been to include the reading specialists who are in contact with, students in general education and the general education teachers. The goal is, the more people we can get trained in this, methodology, the better for all students, right? So we're working on getting the reading specialists trained, and I know that we just hired is reading specialist at the middle school, who is coming in as a certified level OG instructor for the middle school to add to our repertoire of staff members who are trained in this methodology. So I'm hopeful that it's going to have a significant impact across all classes in general ed, special ed.
And just one more question before I cede. So can you just, on the students that are entering the Literacy Academy now, and I guess in the fall, what grades are they in?
K-3.
K through 3.
There may be a fourth in there somewhere, but primarily kindergarten through third.
It's all really exciting. Thank
It's
you.
awesome. It's great.
Hugo?
Thanks for that. So one of the concerns I hear pretty often from parents in the community, particularly in those age groups, are around dyslexia and what we're doing. Is that what this is specifically focused on? Okay.
Yes.
And that's generally what I've referred them to, but just didn't know enough about it. So this is a growing focus of ours, just knowing that it's a pretty large. It seems to be a pretty large concern for a lot of parents.
And we've been doing Orton-Gillingham for 10 or so years. This is kind of taking our expertise and our proficiency with the methodology to the next level. And OG, as you recall, is the gold standard for working with students with reading disabilities, dyslexia, and whatever else.
But also just it seems that we're just putting more people that are capable of using that teaching, because I think that's what I'd heard, is that these teachers is like they can only do so much, and there's just not enough, I guess, of folks involved helping their kids. At least that's what I've heard from a few, and that's what it seems like this is addressing.
And often it's students who struggle significantly with reading, and that's what this program is designed for. It's a labor-intensive process,
Yeah.
right? There are groups that are, between 1 and 4 students, because you want that exchange back and forth with the instructor to, get the feedback and the practice in the reading. So it's an intensive, program.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Julie?
Do we have an update on the right to read legislation, and would that affect the Literacy Academy at all? And if so, how would it affect it?
So as Dr. Crancy and I were just talking about this, the right to read piece recently, we still have not heard back from the state as far as the waiver that we put in. We anticipated hearing back from them back in June when they notified some districts that they'd be scheduling interviews. That hasn't happened yet. We both have been searching our emails looking for that, and we haven't seen anything. Regardless, though, because this is a special, it's an intervention through our special education department, it would not be, I don't anticipate to be impacted in any way by that, because that's really around your general ed curriculum.
Okay.
And this is more of an intervention for students who are struggling.
Okay. So it would affect general ed and not this?
Depending upon the results of, right, whatever. So the waiver that we submitted, which was a doctoral dissertation, essentially, shows that the instruction that we're providing is at least as good, we believe significantly better than any that's available through the programs that the state's asking us to adopt. So if we're granted that waiver, then we're okay. Nothing changes. If not, then we believe there'll be an appeal process that'll be built in, and we'd be looking at doing that. So we're waiting to hear back.
And I know you were very on top of it. When I reached out to you, somebody from Wilton reached out to me, and you
Sure.
were like, we've already submitted it, so thank you for being on top of it.
Of course.
Brendan?
So can you just remind us what it takes for a teacher to become certified? Is that something that they can do over the course of a year, or does it take a couple years?
For the associate level, it's 60 hours of coursework and 100 hours of supervised practicum. It's possible to do it within one school year. It's a challenge to do it within one school year, right? Because there's the 60 hours, they did once a month for, 6 sessions or 10 sessions, I guess they did. And then once they wrap that up, then it's the supervised practicum. So it's a lot of time, to get those hours. Some were able to do it. There was, I think, 2 of the 15 wrapped it all up at the end of the school year. Some worked on it over the summer, and some will continue into the fall. It was a large cohort of people this first time through. I don't anticipate that there'll be that many this next time through, so it should make it at least a little bit easier on Jen to supervise all that.
I just had a question on, so we closed the year with 14 students, and you noted that next year we'll have 24 enrolled. We have 24 enrolled. So where did those new referrals come from?
It came from referrals from either special education teachers. It came from new evaluations that we did throughout the year, or towards the end of the year, are the 2 main sources.
Okay.
We developed a referral process for special education teachers to be able to refer students into the Literacy Academy. And then there's also a process, if we get a new evaluation in and we see that the students is significantly behind where he or she should be, then they could go directly into the Literacy Academy. So that's the source.
Okay, thank you. Penny, and then.
I was just curious, how many hours a week are the students that are in the Literacy Academy receiving instruction?
It varies because it's a PPT and individualized for
Okay.
students, but in general, it's 5 days a week for 45 minutes. To do an OG lesson, you can either do it in a block of 45 minutes, or you can do it in 2 30-minute sessions. But with the intensity for these students who are in the academy, we feel that it's 45 minutes a day, 5 days a week in small group. And the results are showing that's the right thing to do.
Given the staffing for next year, 24 students, how much room is there to grow and still serve those students at that level?
Yeah, I think if we look at, the reality of how many students are in a group and the need to go to have the teacher at PPTs and other obligations throughout the day, we're hoping 18 to 20 per full-time teacher at each of the elementary schools is where we want to be. So there's room.
I would just add that these are very encouraging results for a first-year program. I guess my last question is there anything that you learned or that Jen learned that you would consider changing for next year, either procedurally or academically speaking?
We refined we had to develop the referral process, because it's one of those things where you build it and they will come, right? So, we need to be cognizant of the fact that there are some students who are, having some difficulty with reading, but they're doing just great in working with their special ed teacher who's, certified in OG. And then there are other students who are more resistant to the instruction and need a higher level of intensity. So being mindful of that and making sure that we don't get overwhelmed with students and developing the process, but really nothing at this point that will say, maybe we should do this
It
differently.
appears to be working, so,
Yeah, we're building it as we go. We're doing, we're doing what we need to do to make sure that the kids are getting what they need.
great. Julie?
Sorry, I think Bob's waiting to get in, and he has a question.
Oh, Brian, can you admit? If you go up top. Just give it a sec, he should come in.
Hi, Bob. Did you have a question, or you were just looking to get in?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, of the 14, I was listening on YouTube, of the 14 children that were in the program last year, how many of those would have been either referred out or had help in district from an outside, like vendor or?
That's a
Just trying to
difficult
get an
question. Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer. Our goal is always to keep students in district. And part of this program, the reason we're developing this program is to make sure that we can meet the needs of all of our students here in district. This is a unique opportunity for us to really improve and refine how we're delivering this service to keep all these kids. And it's really, I can't really predict who may or may not have left the district or who we might have had to call somebody in. It's hard to determine that.
Okay.
All right, thank
Thanks.
you. Next, we have an update on hiring with Ms. Bianca.
Good evening. I think it's safe to say at this point that we've had a very successful hiring season. It began last April, so that's 5 months of hiring. Our administrators and their teams of building professionals have really done a wonderful job of selecting the very best candidates. And I have personally met with every candidate that's been hired. So I feel very grateful that that's been the case. And this morning, we welcomed 44 new staff members at new teacher induction. Last year, it was 40. And it was a really wonderful morning, especially, and day. And we will have 2 more full days of new teacher induction with them, in which all sorts of information is shared with them about our school district and all the different facets of it to prepare them to really hit the ground running. It was a very exciting group of people. They come very well qualified, even the newer ones. Those 44 staff members represent all areas of teaching, more so on the elementary and middle school level. The high school was a little sparse in hiring this year, which is great. And some new teachers. So we've had some conversations about how best to proactively plan out ways to support them and answer their questions and give them what they need. Our administrators stand ready to do that. Some of the positions that are in the group were new positions, as you may recall from the budget process. So things like the pre-K director and our teacher coach on the elementary level, and some of the staffing for the Literacy Academy. So those few people are added in to that number. But we had hires in every shortage area. So VPA, world language, and all of the content areas that are shortage areas were hired. And I think that is a very unique and individual circumstance. I was telling the cabinet that sometimes for fun on the weekends, I go in and look at other school districts to see how well they're staffed. And our administrators and their teams did a really wonderful job very early on to recruit, especially some of those really hard to find positions, especially in special ed. I think we hired a couple of special education teachers, a BCBA, some school psychology, some speech pathologies, and those are all, really hard to fill. So kudos to all of my colleagues for working so hard. That number also includes all of our building subs and our long-term subs. So we've proactively filled some leave replacements for teachers who already know they're going to be out on maternity leave, or something has come up in the last couple weeks that I know about that's a medical leave, and we've already proactively filled many of those. We have very few positions open at this time, except for a very recent resignation of last week. So we'll be looking for a preschool teacher who has a special education certification. Yes, that was a commercial. And a couple of other a leave replacement and one other building sub. We've also done really well this year in terms of recruiting interns. So, and that, in the previous couple of years, things are starting to shift a little bit since, I don't want to say the word, but since our complexities with hiring. And, so we have some interns at each of the elementaries, one at the middle, and we were able to secure our building subs, which, thanks to all of you and Dr. Lutzy, is a really wonderful model for providing consistent, good quality substitute people in all of our buildings. And we're also actively recruiting for substitute teachers. Continue to do that. Our numbers are growing, not exponentially, but they certainly are growing. As that, I think, will continue to be a need in the future, and has been very, very complicated, for the last 3 years or so. The essence of a lot of the hires, as I know I'll probably be asked, and it is a good question. We had 5 retirements this year, so those people have left us to go on to retirement. And then the trends that I noticed in my conversations with people that are leaving have a lot to do with quality of life. So the commute situation is, becoming more and more of an issue with the traffic patterns, and people really realizing that it adds some time onto the beginning and end of their day that they would like to spend with their families. So they're actually taking jobs that are closer to home. But again, we were lucky enough to hire for those positions with people that we feel strongly will meet our needs. And we're working on, the problem of that, except to say it is an expensive area to live in, and the commute is the commute. But we're doing everything we can to recruit as many people as we can and look at the best candidates and be really encouraging. People are probably tired of hearing me say annually, but I said it this morning. Every person that I meet with, pretty much almost every person that I meet with to hire them, comments on the process itself and how rigorous it is, not only in terms of the number of interviews, but the depth of the questions. And you recall in my presentation that I did to you in the fall about how our hiring process, there are a couple of interviews, and then there's also either a demonstration lesson or some sort of performance task by a group or committee of people. They're then asked to meet with the principal of the building. They then come to me. So the comments that they make are, it is the most rigorous hiring process we've ever been through. But it says so much about who you are and what your expectations are. And everyone was so nice. I really want to work here because that combination is really what I'm looking for. I'm looking to be in a really high-performing place that has high expectations for its staff, but supports them and has resources and gives them what they need. And, we're really cognizant of that as the year begins with not only our wellness committee in looking at our staff and ensuring that they're comfortable and happy, but also in all our administrative teams and the teams that, work down from there in terms of Jill's teacher leadership teams and all of the support positions that we have for teachers to coach them and help them learn and grow. That reputation is out there. And it says a lot for who we are as a district and what we can provide for people. So they, they want to be here, and I think they're excited to be here. There was, we were commenting, Brian and I were commenting on the level of banter in the room and excitement with all the staff this morning, and then the listening and, the good questions. So I feel really good about the last several months, and it's been a lot of hard work on everyone's part. But we're well-staffed, and whatever's left that just popped up, actually some things have popped up in the last couple of weeks, and we very quickly resolved some of them, and I am shocked that we were able to do what we did. So,
Would you like to explain the pilot for our substitute teachers to try to?
I wasn't sure whether, okay. Yes, so as we were sitting around the table, I don't know, 6 or 7 weeks ago as a cabinet and having a conversation around substitutes. And by the way, Bob, thanks for your putting it out there. I know you do. I heard that and read that. We were having a conversation a while back in the summer about how, can we impact this concern that we have, and actually had looked into met with a couple of different companies with my department who professionally secure substitute candidates, and really started to think about, well, what is it that they're doing or offering that, we could do? And so in the cabinet, we were chatting about it, and Sean brought up an idea that came from Greenwich, which was, and Brian supported it, and we all talked about it as a good option. So if a substitute is working for us and commits to working 3 or more days within a week, we're looking to offer more money and hope to secure them for us. And we put that out there on the website, and hopefully now it's out in public. We'll see how that goes. I think that it will have a very positive effect on people wanting to come here and be a substitute in our school district and position as well. So.
Thank you for that update. I'll take quick. Erica?
Sure. My first question was, the new teachers that we're hiring, are they generally early career teachers that have been maybe 1 or 2 or 3 years somewhere else and then come, or are we seeing a range of different levels that come to our district?
So of the 44 staff members, there are 10 teachers that are newish in their first couple of years. All of them have master's degrees and very good training, and made it through our process. So, they're young and they're new. A lot of the staff members that we hired in some of the shortage areas came from other places and have a lot of good experience. A small number of people are still moving into this area. It is just a fascinating trend from other parts of the country. And yay, for us, in terms of getting some people hired that have, 10, 12 years of experience in teaching cello. So that one stands out in my mind, but there are a couple more. So all sorts of things are happening, but we are kind of analyzing the trends just to make sure that the new people have what they need. And Dr. Lutzy and I will be going out and meeting with new teachers a couple of times this year to kind of get a feeling for what they're thinking. And we did analyze the trends of who's come in.
Great. And then the interns, you said that it's come back, that we've been able to hire interns. Are we hiring them from the same sources, or has our composition changed or our methods changed?
There were no sources before. People were just, and I was calling all of the universities. I have contact people. There are more people entering programs as interns now than in the last 3 years. We're also getting more student teachers. And I've put the calls out months and months ago to say, send us your whomever. And as soon as I get the email or the phone call, I make the referral to the principal, and they know we've told all of them to just, get on it right away. And, we've been able to get those people in, so.
Great.
And there were also a number of people this morning who had been either interns or student teachers in our school district that are principals. And I have this conversation in hiring those people that, gives us a chance to get to know you and you a chance to get to know us. And in many of those situations, our principals felt that they were definite hiring material for our school district. So we announced this morning a couple of interns, a couple of building subs, and also 2 or 3 alumni. So New Canaan High School, New Canaan Public Schools graduated students who are back teaching in our school district. They live with their parents right now, but
Great, thanks.
yeah.
I just want to say thank you to you and to everyone, all the administrators who are involved with hiring, because this is very significant in this time. I know that every day when I open, I read the news, the headlines are covered with the number of districts in our state and also nationwide that are scrambling to hire teachers, and in many cases are opening their doors this year with classrooms that are merged and openings in the dozens and sometimes hundreds in larger districts. So this is really significant and really important for our kids, I think, to be successful, and our teachers, because I think it sets up our teachers to be able to do their jobs well. So thank you to you and to everyone involved. So, great. All right, Dr. Correnti, you're up next with an update on our summer programs.
So we had 3 very successful summer programs for our students. One, Mr. Tesber already mentioned, was our extended school year program for students who are identified with special education services who need to attend the program during the summertime, and that is offered to students who are in K-12, and it's through the PPT process that they're recommended. But that was a very successful program. And then we had 2 programs. One was our summer enrichment program, which is probably in its 30th year. And we had the program returned again this year with the children over at Saks and over at South. And it went from June 19th through July 21st. And we had over 520 campers who attended the program this summer. So it was a huge success. Some of the classes that they offered were pottery, digital animation, printmaking, photography, rockets, top chef, excuse me. And then one of the highlights was the Camp Invention. And that was our largest STEM camp, and the campers designed mimic bots, their own pop-up businesses, and skate parks all week long. So that was really exciting. And then for the 24th year, and it's so hard to believe that we still have this popular camp of Harry Potter. And the kids still come out for Harry Potter, and we fill the 4 houses at Hogsworth, and this whole school is converted with their daily profit and making potions and playing Quidditch. So it's really amazing to see that truly is still a highlight for our summer campers who really look forward to coming to that week-long program. So that was a very successful 5 weeks, and we're very thankful to the 2 leaders, Brett Gillian and Darren Bruce, who really take that initiative on and start advertising in February and recruiting teachers to run a wide variety of programs, and they never say no. I mean, the teachers just come forward with a new idea, they say, let's go for it. And then there's always the traditional camps that just the kids come back for. And I think the adults really love it as well. I think they love the Camp Invention, and they love the Harry Potter camp. So thrilled. And then the other summer program that we offered for the 3rd year is our Achievement Academy. And that was hosted over at South for our students in grades K through 6. And if you recall, that was the summer program that we created through the ESSER ARP grant money. So this is the last year that the grant will be able to fund that program. The grant is coming to a close in the spring of 2024. So we really had a wonderful opportunity to bring students who might need some academic support
or who might need some financial assistance to attend camp. And so we transport them to South School, where they have an opportunity to participate in academics, in enrichment, and really just have some camp fun. And that we had hosted about 100 plus students per week. And we're flexible, so sometimes a kid would come for 1 week, sometimes they would come for all 5 weeks. But it was a huge success, and we'll have to have a conversation about what we do for upcoming years, whether that's something that we'll support through Board of Ed, or we'll say it was a grant program, fund it, and it comes to a close. But we do know that we have been fulfilling a need, and it has been registration. People still call us now. Or if one child got in who's in second grade that needed academic support and they had a sibling, the parent would call and say, you know, I know my third grader doesn't really need the support, but can they come? And we said, sure, come. And so it was a great place for parents to be able to put 2 children into that program. And we just did enrichment and had lots of fun with the kids. So it was a great opportunity. And that was our programs for the students this summer. We also had some teachers who participated in professional development. We sent a team of teachers out to the Design Thinking Institute in California in June, and we also sent teachers to the ISTE conference again in Philadelphia this year. And it's really exciting because now we're starting to offer our own courses for teachers. And so we've part of the teacher's contract is part of where you can offer a college level course for them where they'll participate 30 hours over the course of the school year. So we opened up this past summer with our first design thinking camp for teachers. And we had about 15 participants, K-12. And they attended a week-long summer program in August, and then they'll meet periodically throughout the year, and they'll have some projects that they'll be doing in the springtime, and we'll continue to give you some updates. But because we send these teachers off to professional learning, they're able to then bring it back and recreate in our own district here, and so that's very exciting for us, and certainly we'll have updates with our innovation committee as well.
Great, thank you. Questions? I had a question on the Achievement Academy. Do you know, given the grant, the COVID grant, Mother ESSER grant money, how many other districts in the state approximately, is that a popular use of those funds for like summer programs? I'm just wondering if the state would take notice that that's something that perhaps worked really well in a lot of other districts as well.
So I think the first year was an idea that many of the districts ran with. I don't know how many continued the 3 years like we did. I think they may have found other uses for the funds. Interestingly enough, I did see one of the districts was actually charging kids to come for like this academic program, and they would do like small group instruction for them. So I guess people are taking and satelliting off of that. But I don't know how many actually continue for 3 full years like we did.
And I'll just add, I think Dr. Carenti is being a little bit humble. In the program that we put together, really thought about students from the beginning to the end of the day, each and every day. So I believe, I've heard of another district that's providing transportation. Even before students get involved, identifying those students and the outreach that we did to encourage them to enroll, thinking that they would benefit from the program, because they can be reticent to do that. So encouraging the enrollment, providing the transportation, providing the food, and bringing in our teachers that know the students, know the curriculum, know the programs to do the teaching with those kids. I think what we did here is truly very special. I don't think it's something that was, I haven't seen its equal across the state. People have done summer camps with some of the money, but really, and it was Bill and Jill and got this off the ground and just ran with it, really thought deeply about what the students' needs are. How do we support the family, not just academically, but through the transportation, through the food, the whole thing, providing that entire experience. So I think it's really commendable and something special.
So how much of a financial hole is it losing the ESSER money for this program if we wanted to continue it next year?
I haven't gotten the final calculations for this summer, but I know last summer it was close to 70,000. When you add in campus monitors, staffing, transportation, it's quite an expense.
I had a question. On the design thinking, are the teachers that participated, are they from all 5 schools, and do they span all the grade levels, or was there any concentration among the teachers?
No, they really were 5 different schools and all in different areas. So it wasn't, you know, we had people that came from world language, the math department up at the high school. We had elementary teachers, we had a librarian, we had the ACES teacher here at the high school. So it really was a wide range. Our hope is that they would then become part of the building-based committees and share what they've learned, and they'll be doing projects throughout the course of the year as part of their coursework, their 30 hours of coursework that they'll be doing.
All right, thank you. Okay, Dr. Lutzy, you ready to give us an update on healthier start times?
I am, and if you'll indulge me, I think I'll do it from the
Sure.
podium, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So. All right. All right, thank you. As you'll recall, in the spring, we used a new system that we had purchased called Thought Exchange in order to gather feedback from the community, from our staff, from the students regarding our shifting towards healthier start times. And Thought Exchange was interesting because it's more than a survey tool. It really is a feedback tool. And so, if you'll recall, and I imagine everyone here took it as a parent and otherwise, the way that it's set up, you log in, there's a couple of demographic questions, and then there's a couple of sort of traditional survey questions, right? And we'll go into that in a moment. And then it gives you an opportunity to leave a comment. And after you leave a comment based around the question, you can then rate other people's comments. And the idea here is you're sort of building a communal understanding, and some people might certainly disagree with some other people's comments. They can rate them up or down. And what emerges is sort of a more general understanding. And so the more people you're able to have participate in something like this, the more you can truly get some feedback that's, I think, meaningful and much more insightful than simply asking, Likert scale, sort of rate this 1 to 5 kinds of questions. Now, those questions are important, and we're going to talk about those results certainly as kind of an anchor here around our goals and changing our start times to go healthier start times. But the comments in support of those pieces of feedback, I think, they are equally interesting. So overall, our total participants was close to 2,500 folks. And what we did after we closed this exchange, we met with the company a couple of times to disaggregate, talk about what we were doing. They were quite impressed by both the number of participants and the variety of the participants around the stakeholder groups that we had. Over 1,500 people responded with a thought, and there were over 24,000 rankings, right? So you can go in, give a thought, and you could just keep going if you want to keep ranking, up or down, and how you rate the other thoughts. And again, that helps us to build the understanding. Our goal in doing this at all was to find if our shift to healthier start times truly had the impact that we were hoping that it would. And so that's where the 3 questions in the beginning were. But before we get there, very quickly, the demographics of the respondents, as you'll see, pretty equal across our 3 elementaries. 330, 275, as you take a look. I'm looking at the total participation by school on the left. You look at the Sachs Middle School respondents, number 818. The high school was obviously the largest group, and that in part is because we had all of the high school students invited to participate, and only half of the Sachs students. And of course, we wouldn't be asking our youngest students to get involved with something like this. But we did ask their parents, and as you see on the right, you can see the breakdown. This is on the total numbers of the different groups. But that, I think, we can break down a little further to get a better understanding. Of course, when you look across the student groups in the elementaries, less than 0.5, that really we didn't have any. But then you get to the middle school, a couple, but then our high school at 97% of the student group. The faculty staff group, you see 457 respondents. And then in the parent group, I've got to look at this is too small. In the parent group, we have close to 2,000, I believe. Yep, 1,966. Very good. So again, we've got quite a good response from parents, quite a good response from faculty and staff. That 457, we have about 420 or so certified staff, and then we have our other staff across the board. So good respondents, good number of respondents as we look. It started after the demographic piece. We had the Likert scale questions around the three big domains of our work as we considered healthier start times and what we were looking for. And it was a question about overall well-being. Has it improved since we had changed? A question about quality, amount and quality of sleep. Has that improved since the change? And then overall academic performance. And we asked respondents to rate this on a 1 through 5. Okay. When we looked at the feedback, which we'll get to in a moment, we threw out, if people answered a number 3, we threw it out. We want to see agree or disagree. The neutral wasn't helpful, so we threw those out, looked at, disagree 1 and 2, agree 4 and 5, and those are the results that we're going to be talking about. The thoughts that came through, in general, very positive feedback for the intended outcomes. So it appears, based on this feedback, to have met our goals as we were looking at, again, improving in these 3 domains: overall wellness, amount of sleep, academic performance. Students have benefited. Students and parents agreed strongly, as you'll see, that students have benefited from that time. And of course, it's a brand new implementation, so some challenges around sort of rebalancing the ecosystem, as we've talked about, right? The school exists in an ecosystem of individuals' lives. When something shifts, those other things have to shift as well. It can take some time, and there's some follow-up work there that we'll continue to do into the year. The first question was, my overall well-being has improved because of a change in school start times. Of all respondents, 1,389, 67% of the respondents either agreed or strongly agreed with this statement. If you look to the right, it can in some ways become even stronger, because you'll see that close to 80% of our students answered affirmatively here, either agreed or strongly agreed, that their overall well-being has improved because of the change in start times. And again, those are high school students giving that response. I think that's very powerful. If you go down to the bottom there on the right, you see parents, guardians, right? Almost 75% agreed or strongly agreed that their child's wellness has improved as a result. And that's K-12 look, right? Because we saw there were parents at all grade levels that were responding. So I find that I think that's a very important and powerful data point. Now, the faculty responded, those are reflective of their personal experiences, right? Not their students. So staff, again, the ecosystem and getting to work and all of those things. So we do see a little shift, and you see about 65% disagreed with that, with 36% agreeing with it, right? So it was a change, and we know that. The key thoughts around it, again, so somebody wrote this, and then other people upvoted or downvoted. They gave it 1 through 5 stars. So the overall, with all of those over 1,700 comments, the third most upvoted comment was this: taking their time in the morning led to calm start of the day and better preparedness and tackling each subject at school. Seems like a parent's comment, maybe it was a staff member, but I think that's very powerful to get that sense. And of course, you see the one below it: wonderful for my daughter to sleep in until 6:45 and make the bus. As you may recall, prior to making the change, we had people being picked up at 6:30 in the morning across our district. We had kids reporting getting out of bed at 5:30 in the morning to get ready to get out, leave the house by 6:20 to be at the bus stop in time. So that shift to every pickup after 7 o'clock in the morning has really made the difference in children's lives. And I think that everyone here deserves a lot of credit for making this happen. A couple of other thoughts around this, around the well-being. And again, you can see them right here. My son has plenty of time to wake up and finish homework as needed. Of course, we'd like that homework done before he goes to sleep, but we understand. My daughter sleeps later. It fits her natural sleep. And then there's no more rushing the wake-up time with enough time, they wake up with enough time to get dressed, eat breakfast, and head off without the stress of being late. That, I think, really fits nicely in our goals in doing this work, and is very, to me, very rewarding after 5 hard years of figuring this out and working through it and doing the research and monitoring and adjusting. I think is very powerful. So we get to the second question. My overall amount and/or quality of sleep has improved because of the change in school start times. And in here, this one, again, 1,399 respondents. The difference are those that answered a 3, right? We removed those. 63% agree with that. And again, if we go into the individual reporting groups, it's even stronger. You see that over 70% of the students agreed that their overall amount and/or quality of sleep has improved. The parents, same thing, 70%, 30% for their children. And then faculty and staff, again, they're responding for themselves. And again, one of the things, the conversations I know we're engaged in was, well, we're going to shift the start times and kids will just stay up later. That was a concern, right? It's just, people were worried. I was worried about that. We're all worried. We looked at the research. The research said that's not what would happen, but it seemed intuitive that it might. And according to the feedback here, the research was right? So some of the comments about sleep as we go through. I'm going to guess this was written by a student. No, it wasn't. I take that back. It says, the extra time has been awesome. And then my son needs so much sleep, every little bit helps. Or the other one, I get to wake up later, so it is good, because I get more sleep and I can work until later, so I get better grades. That's the student comment. And again, you can see the stars underneath. So in all of the feedback, the average rating of the top vote was 4.1, 4.2 below that. Third question. My overall academic performance has improved because of change in school start times. Again, 1 or 2 was a disagree or strongly disagree. 4 or 5 was agree or strongly agree. And on this one, it was 63% agree again, but more informative to look at the breakdown. And over 70% of the students agreed or strongly agreed. 63% of the parents agreed or strongly agreed, which may just mean the students think they're doing a little better than they actually are. That's all right. And again, our staff, 31%, 66%. And again, that's they're responding for themselves given those changes. And if we go into those key thoughts, taking their time in the morning leads to a calm start of the day, better preparedness. My 10th grader feels more alert, being able to sleep in a little, or students need more sleep as it helps them out a lot in class. People used to fall asleep in some classes, but now people are well rested and focused. So I think you see the strength of the tool. I'm very excited about the potential of this tool going forward. We have the questions in the front that give us that overall sense, but then you're able to drill in and get sort of a more general sentiment in the words of those that are impacted, right, interested. So I think the tool is powerful. Of course, there are some areas that we want to continue to monitor. This is our first year implementation of our change in start times to healthier ones. And so a couple of things emerged that aren't surprises, but areas of focus as we go into year 2. They include the after-school activities, commuting and traffic, and our middle school scheduling. So around after-school activities, there were a couple of comments that talked about difficulties in attending after-school activities and or for staff around after-school appointments, whether it's doctor's appointments, dentists, those kinds of things. There are times where students are leaving school early for sports. It happens occasionally in the high school, more than I'd like to see. We're going to be working on that, but also at the other schools, right, where parents are picking up kids early to get to practices. So that's where we're going to be doing more outreach with some of the programs that are running externally. And I do know that there's more conversation going on in our area and other districts about changing their start times as well to have healthier start times. So the more that do this, the more pressure we'll put on any external service provider to shift their times to be in alignment with the school. Another one is our commuting traffic. Now, it's funny how memory works. It's easy to forget just how bad the traffic was before we changed our times, right? So it hasn't gotten better. I don't think it's gotten worse. but it is, it's a problem. And it's a problem because we have 3 schools, 2 of them quite large, all on the same intersection. So that Farm and South intersection is tough. We've also learned that Waze will reroute people from the Merritt to get off the exit, drive through here, right past the school on Farm, pick it back up here to get off the traffic, get away from the traffic, which just adds more congestion right through that intersection. I don't think that's a good thing to do. I wish that there was a way to stop it. Don't know if there is, but we'll see. So you add that to that intersection and the congestion that we have, and it's a challenge. We've done some things. We're working with our campus monitors, our SROs, and the crossing guards that we have in place to get the buses where they need to be. So we try to stop traffic, move the buses, move them through, get them out of the flow. We have the road that goes into Waveney now. In the morning, we reroute traffic if they're dropping their children off to go out through there. So, and I think that helps because it just removes it from turning right back into the intersection. Other things like that we're going to continue to work on. But traffic hasn't been good during arrival or dismissal probably ever. I don't have anything that tells me this has made it worse. It certainly hasn't made it better. So we'll continue working on that and see what we can do. When Darlene talks about the commute, it's really, to me at least, that's really congestion all on the roads all over the place. Folks that are driving down, one person in particular comes to mind who had been here at the high school with us for a while, and he just explained that his commute has become about an hour and a half each way for him. Because of the traffic, and it's just because he has a family and his young children, he just couldn't take 3 hours a day to be in the car anymore. And that wasn't about New Canaan centric traffic. That's just the Connecticut traffic in the roads, and it's been building every year. We had a little bit of a hiatus through the pandemic when folks were working from home, and the commute lightened up, but it's back at least what it was prior, if not worse. So something for us to just monitor in general overall. And then the last is the scheduling at the middle school. We have the upper division beginning at 8 o'clock, the lower division's at 9:15, so they've got that 75-minute difference in between. We've known this, so we've already engaged with an external partner to do some work around that middle school scheduling. They're looking at both upper and lower division and shared staff and timing and how can we best optimize the middle school experience for our students across that whole 5th through 8th. As you know, it's generally the largest middle school in the state. The way that we do it is pretty, I think, unique and important and successful in that we've got our lower and upper divisions. Our lower division students don't see the upper division students. They're not on the same bus, the way the school is set up. They share some resources with the cafeteria, library, and others, but the scheduling and even the physical location of the building is all intentional to keep them apart because of the developmental needs of 5th grader versus an 8th grader, and even the teaming is different across. So we're looking at what's the best way to use that time that we have our students, use the resources, provide the most dynamic and enriching experience for everybody. So we've been engaged in that work, and we'll continue that and have some recommendations that come from the partner that we've been working with that we'll be sharing with the board. This year, we're looking at any changes would be in the 24-25 school year. And those are our next steps. And
Thank
there we
you.
have it.
Any questions? Erica?
I had a question on the Likert scale questions. For for students. It looked like well-being students were almost at 80%, but the other 2, they were closer to 70%. And I was curious if you had any thoughts on why that seems somewhat meaningful, that they're saying their well-being is better, but it's not sleep and it's not academic performance, and whether or not the data told you anything about what would make them score that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, we intentionally used the overall well-being because that was the sense of wellness and the sense of self. So I do believe that is when they start to drill down, they might not have known exactly why, but I think that was really our goal, right? To set a system, get a system in place that where students can thrive. So I have not interviewed or had focus groups or any kind of follow-up with students around that. But I do think and we did this during the school year, so they were still in the midst of it as they reported out. But that sense of, I think there's more of a sense of maybe control over their day, so they're not rushing But they might not know exactly what to attribute it to, to narrow it down that way. But I do hear reports that students are arriving to school in a greater window of time. So when we were starting at 7:30, there was a mad rush at 7:22, right? And that's it. And it was all backed up, and students and parents and everybody. Now students begin arriving at 20 of, quarter of, and they're doing it on their time and able to sort of to go into the day the way they want to. So I think that agency over the start of their day is a piece of that overall well-being.
And then I was wondering if there's anything about the responses that were surprising. If there was anything, I mean, it sounds like the summaries sound like things we probably could have anticipated. But was there anything in there, any specific comments, or just a general thing that was either more or less than what you would have expected it to be in the feedback?
Yeah, to be frank, I was happily surprised that it was this clear. On the first couple of questions, those Likert scale questions, it's not typical to ask those kinds of questions and get such clear results from those directly impacted. So maybe it's because I was nervous because we're all in. It's not that if this was flipped, I would not be standing here saying let's go back, right? So I was very pleasantly not surprised. I mean, I was confident it was going to work, but that it had such a measurable impact in the first year for our kids and families. I think that speaks volumes to the reason why we did it. The comments, the system itself, I'm very happy with the system, the way that it allowed people to go in and to ask those questions and to rate, and then if the same person went back in, they could put more comments in and keep rating and rating as they go. And there's also a fear that people are going to go in there with an agenda and try to skew results one way or the other. It didn't happen, and they assured me that's not what happens. As you're reading other people's comments, what tends to happen, if you come in with a very strong feeling one way or the other about the question, as you're reading other people's comments, it tends to moderate people. So they see what their neighbors and friends are saying, and they start to understand more in more depth around the question at hand. So I think that's some of the power of the tool.
Did you get any feedback from parents, students, faculty about the tool itself, separate from the questions we were asking?
We ran a test with the faculty prior to that around AI and their feelings towards AI. Is it going to help or hurt, those kinds of things. So we did that as a small test, and I received some feedback from staff that they liked the opportunity to not just click the buttons 1 through 5, but to share their expression, their own thoughts. Around this, there were a couple of pieces of feedback from people but it was really more technical problem. Like they had logged in and they answered the first set of questions and then left a comment, then logged in again and could only leave a comment. They couldn't leave another set of questions, and they wanted to go back to the beginning, or they wanted to do it multiple times for kids. So it was really more about setting it up and kind of what the limitations are. There is a pretty powerful AI engine behind it that's very helpful to look at the data a little bit, do some analysis for you, and give you some of the high-level outcomes, and then you can sort of manipulate that a little bit to get to the level at which you want to get. There's also a very powerful filter that was very helpful. So that was a concern of mine. Certainly, we have kids and everybody, and putting information into this, and it was able to make sure everything was appropriate, that was public. That was good.
You mentioned or sort of alluded to other districts kind of kicking this around now. Can you give us maybe a few more morsels on kind of what you're hearing and what the time frame is maybe for a few of these other places?
Sure. Well, there's been some conversation in some surrounding schools and other areas of the FCAC for a while. And it's really, this is where that athletic conference would matter. If more schools in the FCAC would shift, it makes it a little bit easier to shift the start of those games. I think that the half hour, the 8 o'clock is working well, for our kids as we're looking at it. And I think that people are seeing that and learning from that, because there was a concern that, it had to be a much more drastic shift to have a positive outcome. And I think these results and others are showing folks that just do something, because it's part of that whole system. We've said from the beginning, we haven't crossed the finish line when we change our start times. What we've done is taken another step towards the goal of creating the healthiest, best system for our kids that we possibly can. So I think that messaging versus this being the ring to grab for is having an impact. Timing, it's hard to say, right? I mean, there's so many pieces that move with this. I don't know of anyone who's changing right away into this year. But I will again say that thanks to Roy, thanks to this amazing team, our principals, everybody that's been engaged in this. I mean, when we sat down to reflect upon the year, in any other place I know, this would have been like one of the first thing people are talking about. Can you believe we did this? And we had to remind each other that we did because it went off so smoothly with everybody's pre-work. Everything that went into it, really made it happen. So, but now we've got that experience under our belt, and we are certainly open to anybody who is interested in learning how we did it.
Brendan?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you along those lines for all the outstanding work of the administration and everyone in the system, because it was incredibly complex. Having analyzed it for multiple years and pulling it off smoothly was amazing. So thank you for all the great work. And the other thing, I just remembering back on this, the analysis that we did, there was no consensus in the community, right? It was a difficult decision. A lot of analysis went into it, and it's really gratifying to see that it's had a positive impact.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Penny?
I just wanted to echo Brendan's comments and thank everyone for the amount of work. I mean, the fact that this went off with so little emails or hitches or anything about it was really phenomenal. And it's just a tribute to all the planning that went into it. But I was wondering, just picking up on the faculty staff numbers, that is a group that didn't seem to like this change. Sure. And I was wondering if when you dug down into that data, if you could did it change by grade, by school? Everybody had a little bit of a shift. I know we had resistance from the high school staff to the change in school times, but I mean, it almost looks like the teachers that went to earlier start times didn't like it, and the teachers that went to later start times didn't like it. And I don't know if that was in equal numbers or what you found from that.
Sure. So at a high level, the teachers that are starting latest like it least.
Okay.
And you're right around the high school piece. There are teachers, and having been a high school teacher, I can say, I loved getting here very early in the morning, getting to school, being ready to teach, turning on the coffee pot, doing all of those things very early. It's part of just sort of your wiring as a high school teacher. So I do think that even though it's only half an hour, shift is a little bit tricky for folks. So it takes some getting used to. That's why I'm glad we did it in the spring versus the results may have been a little different earlier, but we hadn't been living with it at that point. But in general, I think it is that latest group that is most challenged by it. And that's where we'll be talking with them, working with them, and that's part of why we have the scheduling group that we're working with too over at Saks.
Along those lines, did you have another question? Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Just thinking about the parents who had kids that now are going later, and then some that much later versus the high school. Can you remind me, how were parents asked when they approached the survey? So for parents who have kids on multiple schedules, was there one that they were answering for?
No, on this one it was your children, because they were general
Okay.
questions, sort of my children's overall well-being, my children's whatever it may be. And then it was, but they could make a comment about anything specifically that
True.
they'd like.
Okay.
So we figured it was in the comments that we might pick up anything like that that's specific to one, and we were really looking at more of a sort of family by family.
Because I recall seeing some of the comments as I went through it that were already there, and a lot of them consistent with the teachers were more, anyone that wasn't, it seemed like very positive on the high school side and maybe less so on the fifth, sixth.
Right.
Which isn't
If you'll
surprising.
recall, back when we did some of the Hanover surveys, the instructions were to do it and think about your oldest child or your child whose birthday was closest to this day. We tried all kinds of different things to do that, and what inevitably happened was people wanted to talk about all of their children. They didn't feel comfortable only talking about one, and it was more challenging that way. So that's why we thought we were just looking for a general sense of things. And if people didn't know, they would put it right in the middle on a 3, and that was okay. And they'd be able to make their comments. Just a methodological decision.
Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, Penny, yeah.
So just with regard to the faculty and staff, is there more work, do you think, I mean, we're going to focus on 5th and 6th. Is there more work that we can do, do you think, at the high school to try and make this, work as well as possible for our faculty and staff?
Oh, absolutely. We're, the focus, I say 5th and 6th, but we're going to be talking with all the faculty. We're going to be getting, going to faculty meetings, getting the feedback from them, learning from them about what challenges might be there. And, it's sort of, we needed to get a year under our belt, right? And so we've done that and put out any fires, although again, the pre-work really helped that all happen. But now it will be engaging in the two-way conversation about, this is it, this is where we are, and how can we best support you and make this the best experience for everybody it can. So I would hope and expect that a year from now, if we're asking similar questions, we would see a shift in the faculty and staff. That's one of our goals for this year, for sure.
Great.
Yep. Great. And I do want to say a special thank you to Michelle Schneider, who really became a thought exchange expert in doing all of this and put it all together, and really has been an amazing help in using this tool and putting together slides and doing whatever. So thanks, Michelle.
All right, moving on, we have one action item this evening, and that's our 2023-2024 district goals and objectives. It's our second reading, so I will, as you may recall, we have a motion on the floor to accept that, so tonight it's simply a vote. So I'll just open it up to see if anyone has any additional comments, changes, questions. I believe we had some changes from the last meeting that have been incorporated into the copy you have before you tonight. So at this point, I'll open it up and see if anyone has any additional commentary. I think everyone's comfortable. All right, great. So I'll ask, move to accept as a second reading the 2023-2024 NCPS District Goals and Objectives as first moved and seconded by Mr. Naughton and Mr. Alves respectively. All in favor? Great, that's unanimous. Thank you. And, oh. Well, I didn't see him on there, but let me record his vote if he.
Yep, sorry about that, Bob.
Bob, are you?
Okay.
Did you want to record your vote?
Bob, can you hear us? There we go. Yeah, hit the mic on your end. And hit the video on your end, too. Oh, that's me.
Is he frozen?
Bob, can you hear us? Saying no sound. Just do so.
Yeah, but.
Bob, can you hear anything?
Send him a chat.
Yeah, what's your vote?
He's not frozen. No, I can chat him though. Let's see.
Can you hear me, Bob? You raise your hand?
Well, he just dropped off. Or he just turned off his camera, but let's see. I just asked him if he would like to vote for the goals via chat, although he dropped off.
Okay. Well,
All right.
our goals pass, and we'll give Bob an opportunity to insert his vote, I think. Yeah,
Good.
okay.
Oh, he's back. Hold on, let's see if this one works. This one might work. Let's see. Anything, Bob? No?
Okay, I think. He's not seeing it, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
I only had one question about adding back the MOU for the Canaan.
yeah, this, we
No.
can't, it's,
Um, He said, so if we add that, I will vote yes.
yeah. May I make a suggestion? So I think our understanding is Bob would like to know if we should add a comment, a goal around reopening the conversation around the MOU for the K-9 in the schools. And that was something that was in the goals well before COVID, and then, you know, we put it on pause for obvious reasons. So I might suggest, you know, we can talk about it, but it's hard because we can't have a two-way conversation at this point, but that we open that conversation, but I don't know that it's a goal. I think it's worth, you know, getting, maybe in a future session, we can talk to the chief of police about it, because we have a new chief of police, and I just think we should leave open the possibility for that conversation, but maybe not put it in as a goal officially. How do people feel about that? Okay.
Can you hear me or no?
Oh, now we can hear you, Bob.
Cool. It seemed like it came back. Yeah, I mean, it's been a goal for multiple years, so it was worthy of a goal then. I don't see why it's not worthy of a goal now. Just like any other security thing, we had security audit. These are all very important items.
It's just, my 2 cents is it's not something we've actually discussed as a board, so either, you know, if we want to put it in as discussion,
Well,
that's one way to approach it, but, you know, it's a.
Well, we had discussions in the past. It just never happened. So I'd like to see.
Well, it was a
on
different
as well.
board. It was a different board.
Totally.
So,
Just a different, yeah, I agree.
Thoughts?
I would just say, I think that the climate on this one has changed with the new police chief. I don't think it needs to rise to the level of being in our goals. I think we can have conversations between our superintendent and the police chief. Is this something that they want to work on and bring it to us? And so I think actually we're all on a more common footing now, would be my guess on this one. And so so I think we can continue to work on it if it's something that the police want to work on. But I don't think we need to, I think we've had a shift in personnel, and that has shifted the need for the goal.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that changes the need, but
Brendan?
Yeah, I would agree. I think we can have the conversation, and I think it's important that it's informed by, you know, views, as Penny said, from the police, because it's something that we would do in partnership with them. And I think if we put it in as a goal, we're sort of making the decision that we want to move forward with it. I just think we need to have that conversation, you know, with the police a bit more.
Okay, so we had a vote, and in the absence of another motion, I'm going to say the vote stands. And Bob, would you like to vote in favor of the goals, or?
I'll vote against.
Okay. All right. So the goals pass 8-1, 7-1, sorry, thank you. All right. Great, thank you. So we'll move on to announcements and future business.
Okay. Certainly, lots of future business coming up in the next couple of weeks. Darlene mentioned we had our new teacher orientation begin this morning with our 44 new staff members. Impressive one and all, quite the resume of our new teachers, really impressive group. And it was wonderful to see them coming together, spending the morning together, eating lunch together. Really, it was just, the energy was very positive, and it was wonderful to see. Thursday, Friday of last week, we had our administrative retreat. We were over at Sacred Heart University in the old GE building on the 3rd floor. So when we weren't retreating, we were enjoying the view from the old CEO's office of GE, and going in and out of those boardrooms and seeing what the show Succession would have looked like were filmed in the 70s. So it was very interesting. But more importantly was the content of the work we did. And Darlene mentioned our new preschool administrator, and she was there with us. We have a new dean of students over at Saks in the lower division, and she was there with us. We had the crew together, the whole group, which was powerful. And we began on Thursday with a professor from UConn who walked us through the Harvard case study model using a conductorless orchestra as the basis for our case study together. And one of the guiding questions around that was, are we a leader? How would you define our organization? Are we a leader-centric organization or leader-full organization? And it was about appropriate ways to empower those around us to continue to grow and to help the organization to continue to grow in all the right ways. It was very powerful and very helpful. In the afternoon, we looked at the draft of the goals. We talked about artificial intelligence a bit. We did a bit of a scavenger hunt to see who could come up with some of the more creative ways to use AI to enhance our productivity in our various roles. We had some fun with ChatGPT. And then on Friday, we spent the day with the Gallup organization. In preparation, we had taken the StrengthsFinder assessment, and we worked with a trainer from Gallup throughout the day in identifying our signature strengths and discussing how group dynamics work around those strengths and how we can best make sure that we are working in our areas of strength and empowering others to do the same. We anchor that work in the Q12 from Gallup, if you're familiar, which talks about the 12 dimensions of a successful and healthy workplace, and how can we be sure that we're structuring our schools and our staff and the work that we do in order and meeting all those 12 domains of their experience, and to continue improving and strengthening the dynamics within all of our organizations. As you know, we're incredibly proud of where we are today, and we want to continue sort of pushing forward in all the work that we do. And in a way, it was fitting to be in the GE building because we reflect upon that organization and how at one point it was at its pinnacle. Nobody thought anything would ever change, and then once you think you're number one, you're not, right? So it's all about continuously pushing and challenging and learning and growing as an organization. And to have the team together doing that work was very, very powerful. The next couple of days, as we mentioned, is new teacher orientation and convocation on Thursday morning. So we'll have all of our faculty together and a wonderful breakfast prepared by our food service, served by our parents, and then we will go into our program. We've moved our meet and greets. There used to be meet and greets on that same day of convocation. Given the way our year starts with a Thursday convocation, then professional learning on Friday and Monday, we felt that it would be best for staff to move the meet and greets for the elementary and 5th grade over to Monday so that they have a little more time to get their room set up and put their best foot forward. So we've made that shift. So we'll be doing a little more work now on convocation with staff and looking at class lists and student needs and making sure the resources are all correct. And then going into our professional learning on Friday and Monday. And then, of course, our students come back to school on Tuesday. So it's thrilling. We talk about 44 new staff members. It's about a 10% turnover as we look across. And as Darlene mentioned as well, there's only a couple at the high school, only a couple at South. There was a big group at the middle school, and East and West had a share. So you really look at this renewal process and the ability for our new folks to come in, learn from our experts that are here, and really have a mutually beneficial sort of start and relationship together. So we're really excited to see all of that coming together. We met to discuss the kindergarten legislation. As you may be aware, the state changed the age of eligibility to roll it back to students who were born on or before September 1st. It used to be December 31st, and then there was flexibility there. So we've been meeting, Jill and the principals and I have been meeting to talk about what that means for us and how do we sort of work within that framework of the new legislation. There is an appeal process if parents think that their children should be permitted to attend kindergarten even though they're born after September 1st. We've been working around the details of that. The legislation gives us a very high-level outline, and we're looking to operationalize that. I'm looking towards bringing a proposal to the board, to the governance committee sometime in September, so that we can get a policy in place and we'll have the procedures to back it up. That's what we've been working on, so that families have clarity around that process prior to enrolling. And as we discussed in our committee, there has to be some type of assessment under the legislation. So the timing of that's going to be important, because if we're talking about someone, let's say a child whose birthday is October, and the parents feel like they should be able to come, well, we'll have to make that assessment back in February or March, I think, in order to give the family time to plan, and if a child isn't admitted, make alternate plans around preschool for another year and other things. So, it's challenging to think, how do you assess someone quite so young to make a decision about something that'll happen months from then, which is a significant portion of that child's life. So this legislation has its challenges, but we're working within it and around it to try to get that system in place. I will say that as a district, we could not have hired a preschool director at a better time. And Alex is hitting the ground running and already figuring this out, networking with the other preschool directors and getting that going too. So that was all good news there. And our move to 220, just, no meeting can go any, these days without a quick mention of that. Special thanks to everyone sitting over here, certainly all the members of the cabinet and our staff and everybody in general sort of making that move. It's, as you can imagine, moving is difficult. Moving 28 people all at once is even more so, 28 times more difficult. But everyone's been a good sport, and we've been figuring it out. The space itself is quite nice. It's just figuring out where to put everything and how to make sure we have the things we need easily accessible, and the things that we may not need to access often, but we do periodically, where we're going to keep that. So I had a call today with a document scanning company. They've been doing some work for the town. They've worked with some other school districts. They are on the state contract, so I'm going to have them come and take a look at some things and put a proposal together as a pilot to see if it's something we can do or a company we can work with. Ultimately, we've got boxes of HR files, let's say, that are downstairs in the basement of 220. And what happens when you start storing files like that in a place like that, you just run out of space sooner or later, which is what's happened to us at Saks. We've really run out of space over there. So we'll try something with this company. If it works, great. If not, we'll find another one. But we're going to keep looking to see if we can have a long-term digitization solution of our filing, because it's just, the document retention requirements are such that we have to have them, but they can be digital as long as we can access them. And so in our budget, when the budget time comes, we'll have more conversation about all of it, but we're going to run a small pilot with this group to try some of the solutions. But 220 is coming together, and we're figuring out the workflows in our new space, and it's going well. Otherwise, I guess the last thing, we gave Mr. O'Keefe the night off tonight, because next meeting we'll be going through our end of the year financials and have that whole report, and we'll also have our principals here to talk about the start of the school year, or the first day of school, and how things are going. So
Yeah, big meeting next one.
yeah, very exciting. But the school year is well underway already for all of us, and so far so good.
Excellent.
Off
Thank
to a
you.
great start.
All right, thanks so much. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Oh.
Did you ever do comments from the hall? No. I know there's
Oh.
no here, but I don't
No.
know if you care about that, but.
I did skip comments from the public, but thank you. So seeing none. August, hopefully everyone's still enjoying their last days of summer. Yeah. Thank you for that. Okay, now I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Hugo, second. Brendan, all in favor. All right, good night, everyone.